So what are the differences between pleasure and happiness? And I believe there are 7. Pleasure is short-lived, happiness is long-lived. Pleasure is visceral, happiness is ethereal. Pleasure is taking, happiness is giving. Pleasure can be achieved with substances, happiness cannot be achieved with substances. Pleasure is experienced alone, happiness is experienced in social groups. The extremes of pleasure all lead to addiction, whether they be substances or behaviors. Yet there's no such thing as being addicted to too much happiness. And finally, number 7, most important, pleasure is dopamine and happiness is serotonin. Why do we care? So what? Well, turns out dopamine excites the next neuron. And neurons, when they're excited too much, too frequently, tend to die. So the neuron has a defense mechanism against that. What it does is it reduces the number of receptors that are available to be stimulated in an attempt to try to mitigate the damage. We have a name for that process. It's called downregulation. You get a hit, you get a rush, the receptors go down. Next time, you need a bigger hit to get the same rush because there are fewer receptors to occupy. And you need a bigger hit, and a bigger hit, and a bigger hit, until finally taking a huge hit to get nothing. That's called tolerance. And then when the neurons start to die, that's called addiction. Serotonin, however, is inhibitory. It's not excitatory. It inhibits its receptor to provide contentment, to zen out, if you will. That feeling of one with the world, if you will. That thing we call happiness. Now, there's one thing that downregulates serotonin: dopamine. So the more pleasure you seek, the more unhappy you get. And Las Vegas, Madison Avenue, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and Washington, D.C. have very specifically confused and conflated the term happiness with the term pleasure, so that you can buy happiness, so that they can sell you their junk, hedonic substances that drive pleasure rather than happiness. And in the process, we have become most decidedly unhappy. You know, the fact is that a lot of people don't necessarily understand that they are addicted. They know they need something. When want becomes need, that's usually a sign of addiction.